behalf of Vancouver Coastal Health, we're thrilled by the Supreme Court decision, which now gives us the legal mandate to continue to operate InSite to provide the health services that we know are so vitally needed to this vulnerable population here in Vancouver. Harm reduction goes hand in hand with treatment. It's not either or. You can't invest in drug treatment without providing harm reduction.
And that victory that we had in the federal court, it was so sweet after all the levels of struggle.
Hundreds of people have been part of this struggle, and there's many people to thank. But first, I want to thank the drug users of this community who paved the way for this site with their lives.
My name is Gary. I've been struggling with my addiction for the last 30 years.
We had not told anybody that we'd had a child that was addicted to heroin. It was a huge secret. Then, of course, when she died, we had to tell the world.
Substance abuse, addictions, runs across all stratas of society.
There is no community in British Columbia or across Canada that does not have this problem.
In the early 80s, I mean, it was chaotic. It was drug users in the streets, in the alleys, it was everywhere. You could have walked down the street without finding a needle on the sidewalk. We were sharing needles, right?
In 1996, there was a dramatic spread of HIV amongst injection drug users in the downtown east side. And over the following few years, overdose deaths significantly increased.
There were epidemic levels of HIV, AIDS, hepatitis C, tuberculosis, and other healthcare concerns that reverberate throughout the community.
We were advised that crack cocaine was going to start to appear on the streets of Vancouver in the mid-90s. It was in New York big time in the 70s, California, it was coming up the coast, and we were advised 2 years after I was elected that when crack cocaine hits the streets of Vancouver, it's going to change the scene completely, and you better be prepared to do something about it.
How many days you been up?
Fuck, I just woke up yesterday morning.
2?
I'm bouncing it up or what?
I mean, this is a tragedy. This is a tragedy of third world proportions.
I think that the work we did with Mayor Philip Owen at the time that he was mayor around 4 pillars really exemplifies for us why nurses have held on to their nonpartisan status for so long.
Getting that boost from the BC Nurses Union and Deborah McPherson personally, it allowed us to go out and do a lot of fundraising and spend a lot of money traveling all around the province and all around the country promoting the Framework for Action and the movie Fix.
So a group of us had gone to the opening of Fix in support of Mayor Philip Owen, and I couldn't believe when I saw Deborah McPherson and just said, like, why are you here? And she said, well, BC Nurses Union has helped support the production of this movie. And I just thought, wow, you know, nurses are involved in this.
Do you think nurses should be involved in political struggles like this?
Oh. Have to be. That's where your conscience tells you to go.
Hello, hello. We're all there, eh? We're the street nurses.
One day I gave 3 new HIV positive results, all to teenage girls, First Nations girls, and I had just had enough that day. I went out and I bought some needles and we started handing them out, and I said, just screw everyone, I can't handle this anymore, and I'm going to go and give them clean needles out.
Before InSite opened, we had over 200 people a year overdosing just in this small part of Vancouver.
The street nurses really rock.
Maybe we should head down into that alley there. We're the street nurses and just wanted to know if you needed anything.
It was the voices of our community nurses, our street nurses, especially people like Fiona Gould, like our member whose daughter had been affected by it, that ultimately convinced the people in our council and our lead activists that this is the place that we needed to be organizationally and as nurses.
It was frustration on all community members that really kind of spearheaded the whole movement, I think. As well as the mayor at the time, Philip Owen, and his 4-pillar program.
When we ended up creating an 85-page document, which is called a Framework for Action, and a 4-pillar approach to drug problems in Vancouver. This thing just evolved internally in the City Hall with some consultants. And we got it perfected and got it approved in the fall of 2002, which led to the supervised injection site.
Good morning. I'm personally very proud to invite our guests and the media to view the long worked for first government-sanctioned supervised injection site in Vancouver and in Canada.
I trained as a nurse and have been in this community for 13 years, but I quickly learned that the greatest strength I had, in spite of my training, was my humanity.
The Vancouver Police focus at first will be to do our best to ensure that people who want and need access are able to enter without being accosted. This will not be easy.
We have international support, provincial support, municipal support, community support, and scientific and medical evidence. All we need now is for the federal government to simply accept that support and ensure continuation of the exemption under Section 56.
We know that we have now had over 1 million injections take place in this site, and none of those injections have resulted in death.
I can see that it's controversial to some people, but it really shouldn't be. The goal of nursing is to keep people as safe and healthy as possible and ensure that infections like HIV do not spread.
We have, on an average daily basis, between 600 to 1,100 injections taking place within an 18-hour span. It's the busiest injection site in the world.
At the time, there was no safe injection site, so the best I could do was plead with her to please use the needle exchange, which she promised she would do. About a few weeks later, 5-6 weeks later, we got a phone call that she'd overdosed. I do believe that if this place had been open, she would have used it and may very well have got over her addictions.
I think it would be a huge mistake to shut this down. Once they take this, it's never coming back. This is the only one on this half of the planet. It's the only one in existence. It's totally unique, and the numbers justify it.
We organized this news conference this morning to draw attention to the support BC Nurses and the BC Nurses Union will be bringing this week to InSite in its continuing legal battle against the federal government.
The BC Supreme Court and the Court of Appeal have held that because both users and nurses could face prosecution, that interferes with their right to liberty and security of the person.
Our mandate is to prevent death and disability from overdose, to provide harm reduction teaching to make drug use safer for the user, to make referrals, and to perform nursing treatments.
The InSite speaks loudly to those in the population that are fiscal conservatives, because InSite saves money.
If you can address, prevent, and reduce the spread of these infectious diseases, you reduce the healthcare costs that are necessary in order to treat them.
Why shut a blind eye when you can do something to help it? Not help the problem, but help the solution.
We don't provide the drugs that people use at the supervised injection facility. They use the drugs that they otherwise would be injecting in back alleys.
For me, I personally come here when I don't want to be alone when I'm using. That way I've got company. And if I'm trying somebody else's new stuff.
I'm not quite sure why the Harper government is so bent on closing InSite.
It's not a political issue. This is a healthcare issue.
Others say it's against the law, an argument now before the Supreme Court of Canada where more than 100 spectators lined up to listen.
It is strange that we're here today when this is already supported by a provincial government.
Thank you, Chief Justice.
But according to federal lawyers, it's for Ottawa to decide whether illicit drugs like heroin should be used to treat heroin addicts.
If they weren't in here, they'd be on the alley ODing and no one to help them.
In 2007, I OD'd here. I was fortunate enough to be revived by the staff
InSite, I think it's awesome. Like, it's an incredible opportunity to really work to the full scope of nursing practice. It's a little bit less formal than a hospital setting because we're based in a community.
Well, I come in here and I make myself at home and I see God.
It gave me an opportunity to go up to detox on the second floor to recovery and start, right?
You can't have a supervised injection site without the other pieces because you're not going to get recovery when you're on the street and you're homeless.
It's compassion, it's ethics, it's treating other people as you would treat yourself.
Because of the unique position we have in society, and because by nature we are a caring and compassionate profession.
The Supreme Court of Canada, all 9 of their members, voted unanimously to endorse the work of InSite, and in doing so, they have sent a very clear message. If harm reduction is the best that we can offer to individuals in this facility, why is that we're going to restrict it here?
You don't need to have a supervised injection site. You can look at the practice of supervised injection, and the College of Nurses of BC have already indicated it's a legitimate nursing practice, harm reduction practice.
How do you like to be told by the Supreme Court of Canada that you were unconstitutional? This looks like my 6th grade teacher telling me that you were out of order and that you had to actually comply with the order of the court.
I'm really happy for myself and my coworkers and all the people that we support in the neighborhood. And I'm happy for people all across the country who are hoping that they can get the proper health care that they've been denied for so long.
The human rights issues that was behind it, and just the area of itself as addiction needs so much change. And so to have that opportunity to work there and be in this kind of very innovative process that's really moving forward progressively, being part of that means a lot to me.
I think today's young people are so much more savvy around these things.
I think it's so great that we have our union support. Being in the middle of such a political issue and working, on the front lines can be really difficult, and just having the support of the union and other nurses is so important.
Our young nurses who work there, the commitment they have makes me just so very proud.
My advice to Ottawa is let's get on with the show and let's move on to the next phase. Let's accept the fact that we have a ruling, and let's do what is best for Canadians and embrace the evidence.
We kind of go wherever
People are.
And yeah. I'm sorry, this isn't very good. It's like, this is like.
But I did it, March.
What are you planning to do in March? Would you like to do a little nursing or a little needle exchange or a little shall we open another injection site, Liz?